WRC 19 was very important for the MENA region in the sense that particularly the Arab and the African regions, they stepped up, they put their requirements out there for the world to see. They were very clear that they want to prioritize 5G, they want to prioritize IMT. They see that as a way of gaining the socio-economic benefits for the respective countries, achieving their national targets. And this is clear in the outcomes that you see, how they supported the millimeter wave, how they stepped up and looked to identify spectrum for IMT usage as part of bands all across the millimeter wave. Going towards WRC 23, I think what we managed to do in WRC 19 was to secure spectrum that would allow for the sort of the extensive use cases, the one which required ultra reliable, low latency, extreme high throughputs. But we still need to cater for the requirements of coverage everywhere, as well as capacity to the masses. And that's where we'll be looking towards for low bands, UHF 600, 700, as well as mid bands, which is 3.6, the mobile identification, as well as the 4.8, 4.9. Again, when it comes to 5G rollout across the MENA region, there is a very clear distinction. There are some countries which are moving forward fairly quickly, namely UAE, Saudi, Qatar, the GCC countries. They are definitely ahead of the bunch. They are very clearly, they have the focus towards using 5G as a potential to step away from almost the fossil fuel economy. And that's why it is very clear they were the first ones to deploy. They have used the mid bands to already have commercial coverage all across these the Gulf states, almost every single Gulf state. Going forward, I think what will happen is this is the first step. 5G is not just a unidimensional technology. It's a technology that allows to cater to multiple use cases. So we are starting to accommodate for an enhanced mobile broadband use case, which is going to then step into the next phase where industrial 5G, or I should say industrial IoT, with ultra reliable low latency, the higher throughput, as well as the millimeter wave will step in as a next phase. And I think the mass coverage will step in by phase 3. But again, it is important to note, I don't think these phases will be too far apart. We're not speaking of several years. This is probably several months at best. When it comes to digital divide, you have to talk about national agendas. You have to talk about how not just release of spectrum or a certain technology, but how the uptake of that technology is considered. So from my perspective, spectrum is one side of the picture, which has to be very clearly done. This is the resource on which all other aspects of technology will be based on. So as a first step, 5G, of course you have to have a very contiguous coverage of mobile broadband, whether it's 4G or 5G. So you have to have that layer of 4G, that's the first step. And then on top of that, which most of the Gulf states and many of the Arab states have actually already covered, the next step is going to introduce 5G, and this has to be a proactive step. It is not one of those things that you can, it's like building an industry. You cannot build it when you need the product. You need to plan for it in advance. So the way to move into it is to actually build those infrastructures, make those resources available, so that when the time comes in a matter of few years, when the country is ready to take advantage of that infrastructure, they have it already available. Otherwise, they will always find them on the wrong side of the digital divide. An event like MENA Spectrum Conference, which we are having now, the 5th one, the biggest advantage is that this allows for an open, frank, and sort of collaborative discussion on the topics of spectrum. So it was not only a mobile discussion, but rather it was where satellite and mobile, we all get together, broadcasting, all the different stakeholders get together and share their point of view. And the audience is there as well, which is again regulators from all across the region. So we can hear from everybody, and we can speak to everybody, and we can understand what are the problems. Because half the time when we are sorting problems like global spectrum allocation, the issues are, the major issue is to understand the problem. So if we can frame the problem, which this event helps us do, then we can sort it as well.